Hello students, welcome back to the session 2 of the training on project management fundamentals. We're going to be looking at the phases of the project life cycle. Remember, we have 5 phases in the project life cycle, and I said you should imagine it as a novel, and you have different chapters, and each chapter has a unique function, and they all contribute to the various success of the project. So that's what we're going to look at, the 5 phases of the 5 phases, and then you can also call them process of the project life cycle. You initiate, then you plan, you execute, you monitor and control, then you close the project. Let's just refresh our minds about session 1. We learned about key terms and concepts of project management and the principles of project management. We looked at definitions of projects, operation, project management, the iron triangle, critical project factors, types of organization, PMOs. We look at tools, work breakdown structure, the Gantt chart. Remember, I said simple tools that you can use Excel, so you don't need to spend much money looking for software for managing projects. We looked at the 10 knowledge areas. We look at development approaches. Depending on your intended outcome, you may either use the predictive, which is also known as traditional, or waterfall, or you use agile, adaptive, where you have need for a lot of changes in your project, and then you can combine both of them. Use predictive for one side, a part, and then use agile for the other side. So now let's look at the first phase, the project initiation phase. So basically, this phase signifies the start of the project. The project concept is explored and developed. Concept as well as the assessment of the project feasibility. Remember when I talked about the business case? So then prospective sponsor will evaluate the proposal and then approve if they are okay with it, so that they can provide the necessary funding and support. At this phase, all relevant stakeholders must have their input, ensure that to be able to complete a detailed project scope document. So you don't start and somebody will say, no, I wasn't carried along. So the key activities in this phase, you define objectives and goals. You identify your stakeholders and their interests. You develop project charter and initial project proposal. Then you evaluate the project feasibility in terms of the budget, the resources, and the time. So what is the the purpose of this phase? What's the purpose? The 2 key things that you will do. Project charter, you identify key stakeholders. So let's look at the project charter first. What is a project charter? It's a project management document that formally acknowledges the existence of a project and serves as an elevator pitch for the project, for people to buy into it. So the main purpose of the project charter is to secure approval for the project execution from the stakeholders. So you need to define certain things. It's a high-level planning. It's not more details. It can just be a 1-page document. What is the authority of the project manager? What is the scope? What are your objectives? What measurement and assumption are you making? We're assuming that 500 million will complete this project. Why are you going to measure it? What are your milestones? What are the restrictions? Which is the same as the exclusion. That's where the scope comes in. What are the things that are going to be included in the project? What are the things that are going to be excluded in the project? Who are the major participants? Who is the project sponsor and the rest of them? So there's no universal list of project charter elements, but a good project charter should ideally include the following: the purpose, the scope, the deliverables, resources, milestone, the risks, and other key elements. So the easiest way to create a project charter for stakeholder is to discuss all specifics with your team first. You have a project team, and then they are also part of your team because they are all stakeholders, and then briefly cover important project information in a pre-made template. Then you can make adjustments here and there. So this is a sample element of a project charter. A project charter should always include an overview, an outline of the scope, an appropriate schedule, a budget estimate, anticipated risks and key stakeholders. Each of these sessions should be brief, but as thorough as possible. So there's a sample there that you can take your time to go through, and then you have a better understanding. If you don't get into where here, you will get in trouble with your project execution. So stakeholder register, you need to identify your stakeholders. Remember, I said two things are the main thing. The two things you do at the initiation stage is the project charter and the stakeholders. You identify your stakeholders. So you need to, it's still a high level planning. So name, for example, the role, category, contact, expectation, requirements, and concerns. So for example, name, Bola, role, project sponsor. That's what we meant. So these two things are the key things you do at the initiation stage. Then you move into the planning stage. This is where the work is. Planning will take over 50% of your time. Then when you get it right with planning, it will be very easy for you to execute, monitor, and control. So planning is the process of estimating the cost, time, and resources required to finish a task from scratch, from the beginning to the end. The project plan serves as a roadmap for the entire process of the project, where who will do what and when it will be done are clearly outlined. At this stage, all stakeholders must agree on the outcomes of the plan that has been made. It is your responsibility as the project manager to organize and lead the project resources and activities to accomplish the project objectives as the project progresses. Remember, I say you facilitate, you manage, you develop, you engage. So what are the key activities in this phase? You define the project scope, objectives, and deliverable. You develop a comprehensive project schedule. You allocate resources and, of course, you do the budget too. Identify potential risks and create a risk management plan. Establish communication and report mechanism. Remember, I said those 10 knowledge areas, they are the things that you do as a project manager. So we will see how you will plan for the 10 knowledge area in this phase. So processes involved in developing the project management plan. So you can see 9, and I said 10. Which one is the missing one? Is the initiation stage, because we have already done that. So you plan scope management, defining the project inclusions and exclusions. You plan schedule management. When you hear schedule, is time. Getting it done on time. Deadlines are set and met. You plan cost management, watching the bottom line. Every project boils down to money. Plan quality management. Quality means making sure that you build what you said you will, and that you do it efficiently. Do what you promised to do and do it efficiently. Plan resource management. Getting the team together behind every successful project. It's a great team. Plan communication management. This is about keeping everybody in the loop. Let everybody be on the same page about what is going on. So you are providing information in an appropriate manner. And it's not one method that will fit all. That's why you need to understand your stakeholders, so you also know how to communicate with them. Plan risk management, planning for the unknown. Most carefully planned projects can run into problems. It's not that because you plan very well, then nothing will happen. Something can still happen. Plan procurement management, dealing with vendors outside the organization due to lack of expertise or equipment. The project may be beyond you. You may not be able to supply all the equipment and the resources, so you need to engage other people, sellers, contractors, and the rest of them. Plan stakeholder engagement, keeping everybody engaged. If you have stakeholders that are resistant to your project, you will fail. But if you have stakeholders that are leading, they will even help you to achieve better results. And so let's start with plan scope management. The process of scope planning is the initial stage in scope management. This is the definition of all the work required to meet the project objective successfully. So the process, you collect requirements. Remember requirement gatherings, you collect requirements, you define scope. Based on the requirement, you cannot define the scope. These are the things that we're going to do. These are the things that we're not going to do. What do you do with scope? When you use scope, it will help you to see clearer. But you know, it will exclude some things. Everything outside my hand is out of scope. Everything within my hands is in scope. And so you create WBS, the work breakdown structure. And so define scope by what the requirements that are collected. So you see, everything in scope is what you will do. Out of scope, there are the exclusions. If you don't do this very well, stakeholders will mess up your project for you. They will be bringing what is out of your scope. So you have what is called scope creep. Basically, stakeholders trying to feed additional functionalities in your scope, thereby extending the boundaries of your scope without additional resources, cost, or schedule to complete the project. So be careful. So you have defined your scope now. What do you do next? Work breakdown structure. Remember, WBS is the breaking down of your scope to manageable work packages. So I want to construct a schedule, for example. What am I going to do? There's foundation, there's external work, there's internal. Under the foundation, look at the other things that I still have to do. So you break it down to minimal work packages. And then you can also represent it as an operational plan like this. Activities, what is the time frame, who is responsible, what resource required, the cost, indicator of success, important assumptions. You always make assumptions. So the next thing is work breakdown structure dictionary. What is the difference between work breakdown and the work breakdown structure dictionary? The dictionary just will give you more details about each item. So when you are looking for something, oh, you know, oh, okay, this item, what is the identifier? So maybe number 7, which team member is responsible? Description, this explains the work package scope and defines boundaries. Deliverable, duration, the start and the end, the resource required. Basically, it will just give you more details. And so you now define your scope baseline. A baseline is what is locked at a point. You say, this is what we agree. Once you define your baseline, any change to that baseline, we have to go through the change process. But before you define your baseline, no, they can just bring a change, you look at it first. And so you define your scope baseline. So these are the documents that will be there. You have the work breakdown structure, you have the dictionary, you have the scope statements. Remember, in scope. So this is my scope documents. These are the things we're doing, these are the things we're not doing. So these 3 things will form your scope baseline. And so the next thing we are going to do is to plan the schedule. The time now. You know the work to do. You need to put time to it. Because remember, scope, time, and cost. The iron triangle. So what is scope management? This is the process of establishing the policy and procedure for planning, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. This process provides guidance and directions on how the schedule will be managed throughout the project. The term schedule refers to the start and finish date assigned to specific activities in the project. So scheduling usually refers to the what? The activity. when, the time, and resources, human, financial, and material. So develop schedule. You define the activities. These are the activities that we're going to do. Then you schedule them. Which one is coming before which one? And then you estimate what are the durations. Then it will not give you the schedule in general now. So for example, when you are sequencing activities, you sequence activity to help put everything in order because you will have dependency. This one, you need to finish this before you do this. You need to do foundation before you start putting blocks. So you must take dependencies into consideration. So let's look at dependency types that you have. The most common common kind of predecessors is the finish to start. That's the most common dependency type that you have. Finish to start. When you say predecessor, something that you do before this. Finish to start, which means the first must finish before the second. It means that one task needs to be completed before another one will start. There are a few other kinds of predecessors, though. However, they can all be used in network diagram to show the order of the activities. You see a sample of network diagram. But the three main kinds of dependency are finish to start to finish, and finish to finish. Finish to start. First activity, finish, leads into the second activities. So for example, finish to start. Print invitation. You must print invitation for the wedding before you address them to the people that you want to send them to. We have start to start. Both activities begin at the same time. Give toast in a wedding and then serve cake. As you are giving the toast, they are serving the cake too. Finish to finish. Both activities end at the same time. Play Here Comes the Bride, for example. Brides walk down the aisles. They are finishing at the same time. So those dependencies, you must take them into consideration. When you think of dependency, this is what you usually think of. One thing needs to be done before the next one can begin. So we have many dependencies. We have external dependency. Remember I said project, we will call project as internal environment and external environment. External environment, industry standards, market conditions, so that can affect your project. You have mandatory dependency. The one that is mandatory, you must finish the foundation before you start laying the blocks. Discretional dependency, you can put it, okay, this thing is going to take maybe like 3 days. Okay, what about if I make it 4 days to accommodate the machine? So it means that the next activity after it will start after 4 days. You can put it's discretionary, just to make room for you when you are scheduling your activities. So we have lead and lag. Sometimes you need to give some extra time between activities. Lead and lag add time between activities. So lag time is when you purposefully put a delay between the predecessor, the one before, and the successor. For example, when the bride and her father, when they are dancing, the guests wait, before they join them. They wait a while before they join them. Lead time is when you give a successor the activity after more time to get started before the predecessor finishes. So you might want the caterer preparing the dessert an hour before everybody is eating dinner. Those are examples. So schedule 2. This is Gantt chart, and I just use a project. A Gantt chart, like we saw the other time, is a virtual project management tool that help project manager visualize the tasks that make up a project schedule. So remember, what grade and structure is for the scope, Gantt chart is for the schedule. So this is a project. So let's see the representation on an Excel sheet now. Just the graphical representation rather. That was the Excel sheet. So this is the graphical representation. So you can see gather data, you can put dates, you can see the dates on that. When are you going to do this? You can see that some are running at the same time. So you can do them parallel. So take your time to go through that. And remember, I said there are a lot of information on the YouTube. So anything here, go to YouTube, you will get many ideas. You will get the one that you can quickly understand. Just check the video. Some are 10 minutes, some are 1 hour, some are 30 minutes. So depending on the time that you have, you can pick the one you want. So another method is called critical path method. Critical path method is a schedule. It's a schedule. Analysis techniques. You use it to know the amount of scheduling flexibility on various logical network paths. So let's look at this now. So to give you an idea of the shortest time your project is going to finish, and you get by the longest path in the diagram. So when you look at this project now, you see finish house 40 days. So you want to build house. So it's telling you to take 40 days to finish the house. So this critical part means that any activity on this path can never be delayed. If you delay it, your project will be delayed. If you delay it, your project will be delayed. So any activity on the critical path cannot be delayed. The slack is 0. Or float, you can read up on that, 0. So you see the critical part: dig foundation, build walls, build roof. If you delay any of these activities, your project will be delayed. But you can delay installing all the paraphernalia, installing carpentry and all those, you can delay them, but you cannot delay any of the activity on the critical part. So for example, making a cup of tea. We're looking at critical part, making a cup of tea. So you know that you must fill the kettle with water, or is it a pot you want to use? So you can see the critical part. The water must boil. You must pour the water inside the cup. Remember, a cup of tea is not pot of tea. But as the water is boiling, you can go and look for the tea. You can go and look for it. So if you delay filling the water in the first place, boiling the water and pouring the water, if the water is cold, if you don't pour it at a particular time, if it's cold, how will you get the whatever flavor or ingredients in the tea bag? So you cannot delay. You need to define that you cannot delay any activity on the critical part. Any delay will lead to your project not being delivered on time. So we also have another technique: project evaluation review techniques. You can also use this, a technique that you can also use to know the duration of your project. Remember, I said scheduling is about time. So basically, the principle behind this technique is that you look at 3 scenarios. Being optimistic, this project will finish in 5 days. Is the shortest duration in which an activity can be completed. You look at another one: most likely is the most realistic time frame, while pessimistic is the longest time it takes to finish the activity. Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. So you have most likely time, you have optimistic time, then you have pessimistic time. So how do you use it to now calculate your schedule for that activity? Is there. I've already given an example, straightforward. Then we now move to plan cost management. So you see, we have initiated, we went to scope, we have done schedule, we are doing cost. Remember the iron triangle. You see that these 3 things are coming first because they will influence the other things. Plan cost management is the process of defining how the cost will be estimated, budgeted, managed, monitor, and control. So you need to develop a budget. So how do you develop your budget? you do certain things to develop your budget. Yes, this is the budget that I've developed. You need to take other things into consideration too. Inflation. You need to take emergency into consideration, consider contingency. So you need to take all that into consideration. So what are the steps to you arriving at your budget? You saw the work breakdown structure. So for example, you will take the internal, and then you look how much will plumbing cost, how much will electrical cost. So work cost estimate. So each work package, remember I said the WBS is you breaking your scope down into work packages. So you say this one is 5,000, this one is 1,000. So you add them. So you can see an example there. Activity 1, $500. Activity 2, $700. Activity 3, $800. So that will form your cost baseline. Remember, I said anything baseline means that it has been locked. So we have agreed that this project is going to cost $2,000. Then you now add contingency reserve to take care of in-scope work. Anything can happen. Depending on the organization. It might be 10%, it might be 5%, whatever. And then there's what is called management reserve. Sometimes in some organizations within the previous of the project manager, there's some, no, the project manager doesn't have access to it. So when you are finished blowing all your money, then you have to go and apply for that. So you can see the process of developing the project then. So we go to plan quality. Remember the critical factors: scope, schedule, cost, and quality. Remember the second triangle in the session 1. So project quality management is the process through which quality is managed and maintained throughout the project. This responsibility ensures quality expectations are met. This means that it might be possible and reasonable to have a quality low-grade product, but it's never acceptable to have a low-quality product. So project delivery success involve more than just focusing on scope and requirements. No, you must focus on the quality. So you must define the completion criteria. What is the definition of good quality in this project? Or a statement of work that will reflect the quality requirement. How is data going to be gathered and analyzed for you to know, oh, the thickness of this wire is supposed to be 4 mm, but it's 3.8. You need to plan what define that. Oh, the thickness is going to be 4 point something or 4. So when you see that it's less than that, you know that something is wrong. Okay, so the sponsoring organization or the sponsor bears the cost associated with quality, such as the overhead, training, and process audits. These costs are incurred despite being employed by the project. It's the organization that will still bear it. So balancing the quality needs of process and products with the station cost is inherent in every project, and you must pay attention to that. You need to balance it. So we have what is called cost of quality. The cost of quality is a methodology used to determine the appropriate balance of investment in quality prevention and appraisal to prevent defects or product failures. The following are the costs associated with quality. You have prevention and appraisal. These are costs of complying with quality standards. Then you have internal and external failure. These are the costs you incur if you don't comply. So people will return things, you will be repairing, and the rest of them. So please take your time to go through. I've given much details there. Prevention costs, is made with the aim of preventing defects and failure from occurring in the project. So you can see the examples, the things you need to do there. The cost for appraiser are expended to assess the level of adherence to quality standards. So that one, you are evaluating, you are checking. So those are the money. What are you going to put in place to check whether you are adhering to the quality that you want to achieve? Verification, quality audit, all that. So it's it costs that you must put into consideration. We have internal failure costs. These are costs that are associated with finding defaults and correcting them before the customer receives the product. You are still in the process of production. You now see that there's a defect. So that one is internal failure costs. So you have people like waste, things like waste, such as performance of unnecessary work or holding. So I mean, just different errors and the rest, scrap and rework. Those are costs because you spend money on them. Then the external costs, they are the costs that you incur after the customer has received the product. Some of them can sue you. You will spend money on return. Your reputation is at stake. So please, when you are planning for quality, you must take into consideration the cost of quality. So in order to now maximize the value you deliver quality-wise, you must plan. So know your customer expectation, know the customer's expectation, set objectives to have a zero defect. So you put the system in place. Engage quality capable suppliers. Audit your system and process. Let it be ongoing as you are producing. So thank you very much. We have come to the end of the second session 2. Thank you. Please, like I always say, take your time and go through the slides and start your project now, start planning for it. Thank you.